Well, hello and welcome to the wrap episode number 25. And this is a show round up all things Zwift from the last week. We're talking racing, we're talking events, we're talking tech, we're talking fashion. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also catch this podcast on anywhere you download a podcast because Anna is amazing and uploads them immediately after we are done recording. Not really, but they usually get going within about 24 hours. I'm Nathan Guerra, and Anna Russell's next to me. I'm coming out of the Wisconsin of the US of A, and Anna's in New Zealand. This week on The Wrap, we're talking about the usual. What have we been up to for the last week out on Zwift? I hear Anna did something about everesting, not via everesting, actual everesting. I went on a honeymoon. There's a 3-year-old on a bike kicking everybody's butts, and something about segment battle points and WTRL. We have an awesome guest that comes on once in a while that is going to be Jenn that likes to talk all the doctor things when it comes to racing and riding on Zwift and keeping everybody healthy. And of course, we have our fashion show. So Anna, let's get right into it. What have you been up to for the last week? I saw a message come through while I was driving home yesterday, and Anna always gives me a little update on what's happening with the podcast, and both me and Gabriella's expression was, she's alive! Oh my gosh, she's alive!
And my response was, barely. But yes, I actually did it. I did everesting. So I feel still, my eyes are still like a bit puffy because it was super windy. And so it was like a lot of hay fever stuff. But I mean, should I just give a rundown of it? I guess.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I mean, what I saw,
Okay.
I saw a very silent person. I was like, whoa, she is in it. I could tell that you were in it.
Yeah, I was in it. So it happened on Tuesday, my time, which was like 3 days ago now. I did not sleep well the night before. I have not had this in a long time. Even when I was racing, I didn't have it this bad. I was nervous. I think I ended up going to sleep at like midnight and I had to get up at 3. So I had 3 hours sleep. Got to the place I was doing it at to start at 4 a.m. Started at 4 a.m., which was cool. A lot of people thought I was V everesting. So these people are like, I didn't see you on Zwift. Did you do it? I'm like, no, because I did it out there, like in the real world. I actually don't. I never wanted to do a V1. I don't know. I don't have a huge desire to sit on my trainer for that long. But it was, I mean, amazing in that it was accomplished. But like I got to say, I started like the first 3 hours were pretty cool because it was just pitch black and there weren't any street lights, and I had a huge like lamp, my husband's mountain bike lamp on my bike, so you just see that light going down on these downhills, and it was super windy, so the wind was rushing past me. It was kind of like surreal, like you're in a bit of a dream. So that was amazing. And then I have to say though, like at lap 3, so it was about 105 laps, at lap 3 I was like, I don't feel so good.
Oh
So,
no, really?
like not bad. I was just like, oh, like this is a long way. Like I'd kind of ignored it for ages. Like people were like, what's going to be your power like targets? What are you doing? I was like, I'm not using my power meter. I'm not using heart rate. I'm just literally doing this purely by feel. I just want to see if my body can do it. And but then I kind of pulled myself together and got in a bit of a groove and it was fine. But man, I hit lap 50 or 40 and I was like, I'm not halfway yet. Oh my gosh, like I'm struggling. And that's when I just went like silent. But I've got to say, like, the community around me was unreal. I had probably over the day over 20 people come and join. So I had one of my athletes, she's Jeannie, she's like 60 or 70, I think. She sat on a deck chair for like 8 hours cheering me on.
Oh
Like
my
it was
gosh.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, had the local police come down, give me a shout out. I was like, oh, am I in trouble? Because I'd put up all these signs saying like cycling
Yeah. You
event.
gotta wonder. You're
Yeah.
wondering, am I
Oh
did I
gosh.
get the permit I needed for what I'm doing here?
Exactly.
The
And
local
then
news didn't show up? The local, because I heard the local news wanted to
did not want them showing up. Not there was no chatting going on. And then I had my old coach. He came and he rode like 7 hours with me, and he was just great. What he did was like, because it got really stormy, so there was quite a bit of headwind. So he got like all the riders around me in like a wind barrier, and he was just like cracking the whip, like, don't get in her way, let her keep her rhythm, stay to the side. And I'm just sitting there in like dead silence. But then I think, because afterwards, right, you go, why do I do this stuff? Like, why would I be on my bike for like 14 and a half hours? And I think like a bit of it was just you want to see how far your body can go, right? Because I don't train for this. I don't do long rides. And I was like, oh, my body made it and it feels actually all right. And then the other part was a whole bunch of people have messaged afterwards and said, like, I'm going to try the half Everest, or I've just entered this big running event now because you've inspired me to go do this. Like, you don't have to be top physical condition to go try these adventures. So that was kind of a good sort of offshoot of it. And it was pretty emotional at the end. There's a picture that I put up on Insta that someone took of me hugging my daughter in the boot of the car. And I think that kind of summed up the day. Like, I just had that 1,000-yard like stare going on, but I'm just like surrounded by my family. I was like, yeah, that's kind of what it was about.
I saw that
great.
picture. I saw that picture. Sometimes all you need is a hug, I think was the caption on that one. And then, okay, is your coach, or is that the person who was doing all the stories and was like super hype, like about you and the triathlon club and like going for the record and like was just really intense? Like, that person was an awesome commentator on the Anna. But the funny thing is that Anna, you could tell, was like ignoring, just like dead to anyone in the world. And here's this person like, wah, like totally going off about it. And like, it had this like vibe a little bit of like, this person doesn't like anyone right now. And at the same time, it is really cool what they're doing.
Yeah, so no, that is not my coach, my old coach. This was Big Balls Billy, or my kids call him Rudy.
Of course, that is exactly this guy's feel. I get it. Yeah, totally get it.
Yeah. So he's like 22. He does like, I think he's 22. He does like most of his, so he did Ironman Kona in just some like Speedos or budgie smugglers. He won the beer mile in Kona. So you can kind of get a feel for this guy. So he's got this like hashtag. So no one in the club is really on social media, but he's got a hashtag for the club called Believe the North Harbour Hype. So that's why he
continues like, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering, yeah. What is this North Harbour hype he keeps talking about? You better believe it. Like,
I don't know. Who knows? But he was fun. It was a good time. And I've got to say, so I didn't beat the record. And I kind of knew that probably about 30 laps in. I was like, I've actually just got to go into survival mode. I can't ride fast here. And so I didn't beat the record. I'm second fastest woman in New Zealand. And whoever has that record, like, kudos to her. Bloody great effort. But someone put a great post up, which was like, do you know what? And I think it's really good to keep in mind, like, if you succeed at every single thing you set out to do, you're probably not setting the right goals.
Yeah, that's true. That's 100% true. If you succeed, it's because then you're not getting pushed. You're not getting pushed to the next level. You have to fail. You have to learn to lose. One of the best songs, actually, I think it's Backermat does a remix of it, Learn to Lose, or he did that. It's really, really good. Great playlist. If you're looking for playlist music, Learn to Lose is one of the best that I do, because I always, whenever I'm going for those efforts that Dave always tells me I shouldn't be going for, and I shouldn't be calling as a commentator, maybe because I always want the like last lap hero just to give it a go and make the win or something, like so. But unless you do those, you're never going to find out. Never going to find out if it's going to work. So, okay, what have I been up to? I'm really tired today. I'm really tired today. Ordered in a ton, like, me and Gabriella did go on a honeymoon. You put this in here, so I have to talk about it. It's in the, got married early last week. Went on a honeymoon that I planned a cabin in Wisconsin, and gave Gabriella the Wisconsin like experience, like cheese, beer, burgers, cabin middle of nowhere, little fireplace, and ordered. And we actually one of our first meetings was at Zwift Insider. It was our first meeting in real life. We went and visited the Schlangis, and they took us to a winery where you can go and mountain bike. So since this is a cycling podcast in a way,
yes,
they actually host this winery, Six Sigma Ranch. Good friends of the Schlangis. They host NICA races there actually, in the spring. So National Interscholastic Cycling Association, they're the high school cycling league of the USA, for those that don't know what NICA is. And they have been in a movement in the USA for mountain biking for kids. It's a huge movement. There's like 1,000 plus riders every weekend here in Wisconsin, actually, now with the NICA league that's here now, but it started in California. And so Six Sigma, we went there, we went and rode the trails, and then had this great like cheese and wine experience with the Almonds. They're the ones who own it. They bought this land like 20 years ago. It was their father, Kai. We let him. He used to be like a head CEO at GE, and then bought this land, started this winery. It's crazy. It's an amazing experience. And so I was like, I got to get this wine there. So I had it like shipped in and like sitting at the cabin when we walked in. It was pretty sweet. Anyways, that's just a little highlight. We obviously Zwifted. If you didn't see the Instagram post, you can go see our Instagram post. We brought a Zwift setup and did a couple of races because we had to work out. Like we're eating like cheese curds and burgers and wine and beer. So it's like, you got to be on that. So yeah, it was great. And got home yesterday and rode the bike for 2 hours with pace partners. So lots of Zwift is just a part of everyday life, no matter what it seems like, for sure. But
hey, did you hit your Festive 500?
We did it. Nice. We hit the Festive 500. It was we weren't gonna put any pressure on it, but it just kind of like naturally happened. So it wasn't like we were suffering to make it happen, and we definitely didn't neglect other things to make it happen. That was actually part of the goal of ours, was like, we got to make sure that we're spending the right amount of time on everything that needs to get done in order to make this happen. We started a little late though too. We got a couple of rides in when we were in Brazil packing everything up to get Gabriella here, and then had to make a push, but we didn't really make that big of a push. So yeah, we got it done. So that was good. It was like, nice we job. Did it together. We did it like, it was like, we also like I was watching her Ks, she was watching mine. And so it was like, okay, how many did you get? So that kind of made it a little more fun. So it was like a connection thing. Anyways, yeah. So that's what I've been up to. So what is this 3-year-old on a bike? And is it dodgy? What is, so like you have a 3-year-old on a bike. Is that what's going on here? And
yeah, so okay.
They're kicking everybody's butt or what?
Well, I just needed to talk through whether what I've done is like dodgy, because I was like riding with him last night. I was like, this is great. I can't believe I didn't think of this. And then I was like, is this allowed? So I'll talk through. You tell me if it's allowed. So I got him set up with a child account because he's like, I wouldn't push him into it, but every time I come down on the bike, he sets up his little Fisher Price smart bike and I pretend he's riding with me, and I'll select like a random rider and be like, that's you. But then the problem is that random rider won't stay with me. They'll turn off to go somewhere else. And then he's like, how come it's not working? You know, like, and so I was like, oh, I really need to get you an account. So I got him a kid's account, set him up. And then, so what I've done is I've put his bike next to mine. On my Zwift, I've hooked into my smart trainer. And on his little Zwift on the iPad, I've hooked it into my power meter. So I'm pedaling. So basically we're the same person. He doesn't know that. And then we just ride together, and then we stay together the whole time because it's just me. But I was just thinking, is that really dodgy that I'm running my own power off two things? It's only going to be used for like his 3-year-old account. What do you think? Is that bad?
I think it's totally fine. I think it's totally, no, not at all. So you've got two accounts running the same power. Oh, well, like, especially if it's like for your kid, I don't think there's anything, but now I don't know if there's something in the terms of service that says you can't run two accounts off the same power source. I don't know that. I don't actually know if that's in there. I thought you were going to say like he was on like Z power and you like turn down the thing like way low and turn down the resistance very low, and he's just like flying away. And I actually would have said, you know, he's 3 years old. I don't care. Like I would have been like, you guys aren't joining races, and okay, somebody gets their feelings hurt on a segment, but like you're riding with your 3-year-old. Like, oh well, like I don't know, like I think it's a higher value that the 3-year-old's kicking butt. And okay, fine, don't make it so he's stealing all the segments and turn it up a little bit more, but as long as he can hang out with you, I think the highest value there is that your kid is riding a bike with you while you're getting your training done and looking up to you and building that character, and building that part of your family tradition right there with cycling. That's way higher value than anybody's dodgy complaint, I would think. Give him the Z
Okay.
power. I say give him the Z power,
Give him
and
zip
and
now.
and, it's even better.
Well, if you watch my Twitch stream, I actually set up a camera so you can see him on his bike and then me on my bike
Just
on a
make sure he
separate
doesn't take
camera.
off his diaper.
Oh yeah, that would
No,
be
I'm
bad.
serious. I'm not kidding. Like,
No,
there's
he's
the
toilet
whole
trained.
Twitch.
He's toilet
Okay,
trained.
cool, right on. Yeah, 3 years old. Sorry. Yeah. But I've had situations like early Twitch days where like kids are coming in and like, whoa, we don't want to get banned. Go out, like of the
I
situation.
know, exactly.
So
Well, I'll be, yeah. So, but I actually started with his weight at like the minimum weight, 20 kg or 30 kg, but he was kicking my ass. We were like going up volcano climb, and I was like, hold up. Okay, let's all stop. I need to change your weight to like what my weight is because I don't like getting beaten and you're like sprinting away. So, yeah, but now all he wants to do is level up so that he can get better kit. And I'm like, you're my son.
yep. Fashion show has started throughout the whole house. It sounds like we've got similar going on here. We've got a couple of extra Zwift setups since the move, and Micah and Kyle have really, especially Micah though, has really taken to chasing a whole lot. So as far as the levels, the new kit, he actually is like trying to figure out segments and get badges. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Next thing you know, we come downstairs, his shirt's off. He's got his own water jug. He's slamming. He's like taking all of the koa honey and like eating it. And we're like, dude, that's not what that's for. Like, you need to like. So yeah, it's been that's it, the kid thing is a whole new front. It's gonna be interesting actually over the years to watch and see how that develops with like kids who are raised around Zwift and get into it? Like, is there this whole other segment of cycling that has a development scene, or how's that going to work? That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think so because my kids more often than not see me on the indoor bike with the avatar. And you can see they love it because of the whole, computer game element of it. And kids are like, "Oh, that looks awesome." So, yeah, I think I mean, my 3-year-old was on the bike with me for 30 minutes, and I had to say, like, you got to get off now. Like, I think 30 minutes is too long for your little legs, buddy. Like, we'll limit it to 30 minutes. So he's like, I want to stay on. And he's got his water bottle. And so it was awesome. I'm seeing in chat people are saying, no, it's cool. It's all good. It's not a dodgy setup. It's just good to get them all active. So thanks for that. I won't feel bad then.
All right. So, wow, this is a hot topic. Whew. 292 comments, 14 shares, 135 reactions on just one of the posts. And there were a few of them. And what could we be talking about? You guessed it, it's going to be segment battle points. It's on trial for round 3 from WTRL. Anna, before the show and pre-productions, I was trying to give you a lowdown of how it works, and I got a little confused. But then I figured it out after, because I thought it was working a different way than it was. I was a part of some of the conversations to see what I thought of whether or not something like, I didn't know what it was actually going to be called. I didn't know it was going to be called segment battle points, but the idea was run by a few of the, quite a few of the long-term influencers and people who are a big part of the racing community. And I had some feedback on it and thought it was a good idea in one version that I heard about. This is a little bit different version from what I'm seeing, but I want to hear your reactions first before I go deeper into that.
Okay. My first reaction is like, calm down, community. Oh my gosh. Like, I got sent the link to the post, and by the time I looked at it, it was like it had been live for 8 minutes or something. And people were immediately like, this is terrible. This is so complicated, blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh my gosh, like, just relax, crew. Like, I was kind of saying in pre-show, like, if it's after race 1 and the whole thing has fallen apart and like it hasn't worked and people are frustrated. Okay, I kind of get it, but like we haven't even tried it yet. And I think I always like there's a thing with me that I find super annoying, which is where people jump on the like, this is so complicated bandwagon. When actually, if you just sit there and like take it simply, it's not that different from what we do already. It's just making it points based, which is kind of cool. Like if you've been racing ZRL for, I mean, maybe if you're new to it, but if you've been racing for like a year or two, you know who your competitors are in a team. Like I know who I'm racing with, like by individual name by now. Like, yes, a new team might come up and there'll be new people there. Within a race, I'm like, it's that person in the team who I need to be careful of. Like, so, and I don't know, I mean, I'm usually kind of in the front group, so I don't know if it's different going back, but I assume it is. Because the other thing that our teams does is like, if you're not in the front pack, I'm like, you need to beat every 2024 rider in your group there, in that chase group. You need to beat every ATP rider in your chase group. So there's battles within battles that have been happening for me for like the last however long it's been going, like 3 years. So it kind of didn't seem that complicated to me. It's like, oh, cool, this is just adding some points to it. Now, I think then it comes down to the like relax part. Like I would much rather WTRL try something new and different then we just go into round 3 with same old, same old. Like, and it may not work. And I may be the person screaming on Twitch that I'm frustrated, but at least it's something new. And I think I'm kind of excited because, yes, there's all the things like, oh, well, people are just going to sign up really late. I sign up really late anyway, just because often I kind of forget. And I wake up on the day and go, oh, I need to sign in. So, yeah, you may not know who your competitors are until you're sitting in the pen and you go to WTRL and they've listed who your competitors are. Okay, cool. But you still know. You're sitting there with 5 minutes to go. You still know who to look at. And to be honest, it's probably the same people you were looking at over the last 2 rounds who you were trying to beat at the segments anyway. The thing I think it is really, really awesome for is it's giving somebody something to fight for when they've been dropped. Like I've been a dropped rider before and you're sort of like, cool, like I've just got to roll around till the finish line and make sure I'm ahead of that person. But now you can be like, there's a sprint coming up and I've got like skin in the game. I need to be ahead of that person. And segment battle points are huge now. I think Eric from Zwift Insider did like his pie chart on it. And they're a big proportion of points now. And before when I'd say to teammates who'd been dropped, like every point counts. Now it's like every segment counts too. So you can't roll around to the finish line. Like there's a race for the whole race. So, I mean, personally, maybe I'm just looking at this way too rosy tinted glasses. Maybe I'm still on a sort of caffeine euphoria from my everesting. But I think I just love new stuff and I don't care if it doesn't work because whatever, it's fun along the way.
Can I get some of that caffeine euphoria from everesting? That sounds like a great.
Just go to an Everest.
How do I put that in my veins? I want to know.
Ask Jenn when she comes on.
Oh man. Okay, so I think this is your point. The number one point I think that you brought up out of all of that is, and I'm going to hark back to the team time trial. If you enjoy team time trialing, if you think team time trialing was anything cool whatsoever, that idea was off the wall. There was like 3 teams that showed up the first time they ever did it, and then it became the biggest event on Zwift. Okay, like unless you try new things and push the platform, there were not going to be events on Zwift for longer than when they currently came, from my understanding, except for that the race community started showing up at places, timing themselves, and just creating their own events on third-party websites. And it was like, oh, maybe we need to do this because people want it. Like, you have to try things and test things. WTRL is a community organization. They are here, and the craziest, coolest thing about this is that they have support in order to create new game modes that they can try that maybe Zwift can't implement in the game right now, right? Like, and that's the only rub here for me is that I thought that it was going to be a little bit different because we can't mark people, right? We can't see who it might be in game. We're going to need some sort of a marker, I think. We're going to need some sort of way of identifying who's where, how, and why in order to know who I'm racing against. And so I thought it was going to be live rankings per segment. Like the first place from one team would then be ranked against the second place from another team, the third place from another team for every single segment. And then it would just be like the points that are available across the board for each one of those placings at each segment. That each segment would be a live update of who you're racing against for that segment. But instead it sounds like we're doing this as like a pre-ordered algorithm. I get a little wary on the whole like pre-ordered assumptions, you know, but as the season goes on, I think like they'll learn. I think there'll be ways of hopefully quick learnings to figure out how to best seed people against each other. But I absolutely love it that everybody has a role to play now. I think this is the future for team racing, actually. I think that if you actually want to do team racing that has quality to it, that actually has like meaning to it, you have to have roles and people that you're up against throughout the entirety of the event in a way that continually makes sense for the 40 minutes to an hour. And I think that trying this and then whittling it down to what's actually working over time is going to be absolutely awesome. So I think huge kudos for trying something new. And now I saw a comment, good luck to the commentators. Thank you. And also like data work. We need the data. We're going to need the data. It's going to need, you know what I mean? There's going to be like, oh man, how are we going to present this? And, you know, there's going to be a lot of background, like as far as like from an esports standpoint, and, you know, on the back end of that term esports, you always have entertainment and broadcast kind of like hanging out over here as a side note, right? Like esports is always happening. People are always off the cuff playing Overwatch, trying to get ranked, you know, riding Zwift, if you can make that comparison to Overwatch, or, you know, like there's always this battle in this online sport happening across a lot of video games now. But when you say esport, it always kind of has in the background like fandom, entertainment, a broadcast, like that's kind of there. And I'm like, oh, wow, this really ups the ante on the need to parse data, make the information make sense, and do it in a way that attaches to athletes. Whew, we got some work ahead of us.
So
sure.
yeah, I mean on the commentary side, I mean you're the godfather of Zwift commentary, but I wouldn't see it as long as, like you say, the data is fine, but I wouldn't see it as like a huge difference either, because all I would be doing, like say if I was commentating or producing, I'd just make sure I was always going back if I could to the follow-up chase groups and then kind of commentate on what that was happening, as like, oh, we had 2 ATP riders ahead there. I don't know which group they're in, but I know 2 of them went 1-2, so they've obviously done well. So you can kind of like pass comment pretty quickly. But also when you've got races that are like 4 sprints in a lap, I don't think you're going to be going back too much and trying to watch every single battle that's happening anyway. So from a production commentary, it's kind of like when you watch the Tour de France or something like that. You're watching the leaders. You're not kind of popping back to, you know, rider number 7 and looking at their ASO points. Do you know what I mean? You're sort of like, you're up with the action. So I don't know if it's going to be a massive like commentary production headache. I think it's the data headache. That's the part
that's what I mean. That's actually what I mean is the data headache. I think that this tells better stories, actually. Like, I actually think that and that's really what good commentary is about, telling a story that people can get behind, some sort of a narrative that's going to play out for heroism in front of you, right? Like, how is this going to be an amazing effort that we're seeing in some sort of way with attention and 2 different, you know, some sort of battle going on. And so I think there's going to create more story. You can't tell a story unless you know what's going on, and data has been an issue, right? That was my main thing, is like attaching data to riders and to teams in a way that makes sense and presenting it in a way that makes sense. And then on top of that, like even to the racers themselves, it better make sense to them as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did message Martin and I was kind of like, I love this idea, but Whew, you've made a lot of work for yourself. I'm just like, after the race, can you imagine like the number of refreshes on the WTRL results page to be like, refresh, refresh? Did the points work? Did the points work? I've seen Amy Bunderser from Fearless come in and just say that it might be harder for teams that currently struggle to get 4 teammates together because you really do need to have 6 to be competitive now. I kind of somewhat agree, but I don't know if this changes this massively, because I know in our situation, like when we had a lot of sickness in the last round and when we only fielded 4 riders, we were at a huge disadvantage anyway, segment battle points or no. So I think if you're fielding 4 even before this came in, you're hugely disadvantaged at finish line. So yes, you're going to be more disadvantaged, but it's still a disadvantage. It's not as though you could field 4 riders before and you were sweet and now it's going to be terrible. I think it was bad before, it will be bad now if you can't field 6 riders.
Yeah, and that's another topic, like how many riders is the right amount of riders to have as a requirement, right? Like, and how that's a little bit different, but I can see the feedback there, which is a different feedback, but a valid feedback that like isn't necessarily completely related to segment battle points. Sure, it's more disadvantaged, but okay, maybe we need to have a conversation about, is 5 the number? Is 4 the number? Is 6 the number? And how should they be required? How should they score? That's a whole nother participation. That's a tough, that's also a really tough egg to crack there for sure, as far as being able to figure that one out for sure. And I think they're doing a pretty good job.
I have seen a really good suggestion, which I do really agree with. I don't think it'll come out for round 3, but maybe next year, because I know they've done it in Grand Prix and some of the tri race series that they've had on, is that each group gets their number. So they get like group 1 has a literal number on their jersey that says 11111. Group 2, 22222. So you can visibly see the riders in game. The reason I don't think that would work right now is because they haven't set a time limit of when you need to sign into the event. And so I doubt they're going to be able to like go, whoosh, let's get that in game with 3 minutes till the race starts. So I think they'd have to implement before the next rounds of ZRL.
Yeah, they have to mark them. I think the way that they're implemented right now, you have to tell beforehand, and then Zwift have to manually put those numbers on right now, I think. But if they could automate it, that'd be great.
Yeah. And I think then WTRL would have to be like, look, there's a cutoff time, like you have with most races. There's a cutoff time from when you need to enter. So if you haven't entered within 48 hours of the race starting, then you're not going to, you can't race or something. I don't know. It's not my decision to make, but I think that
and then participation goes, oh man, that's a whole nother. Then we open up a whole nother can of worms. I see a cool comment coming through from Enjoy the Suffering Cycling, and they say that you can mark riders with Sauce for Zwift. I didn't know that. Yeah. Wow. That's I wonder if Sauce is suddenly going to either get a whole bunch of subs or be bought by WTL or Zwift, because if they can do what the heck? Like, I mean, if you can just push something and this third-party program just marks them for you, like, I don't know, like, anyway, I mean, if they can do it, well, okay, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, I don't use Source anymore because I'm not allowed to, and so
oh man. So I love when we bring up these hot button topics. Oh man.
So that sucks.
I don't know if we're going any deeper into that one. I guess we'll just leave that there. One alone. All right. Well, we have Jenn Reel on every once in a while. I think the last time we had Jenn Reel on was all the way back on episode 7, and we're on episode. I think it was. Has she been on once or twice? I think
she might be able to tell us. I think once. It was. I know that episode 7. That was definitely when I was like calling in favors from friends to be like, "Come on the show." So that would be about right.
Yeah, about episode 7, and we had Dr. Jenn Reel. Welcome to the program. Absolutely awesome to have you on. Last time we talked about recovery and making sure that you're eating enough, a little bit of women's cycling stuff as well. How's it going, Jenn Reel? Good to see you. I think did you mute your microphone maybe? Perhaps.
Oh, that's such a Dave. That's a Dave.
Yes.
It's all good.
I love
No
it.
Ah,
worries. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Great, awesome, awesome. We're doing well. We're doing pretty good. We've had some contention about segment battle points. 3-year-olds on Z Power. I mean, it's been a little rough so far, but
I will try not to be as controversial.
Wait,
but
can you weigh in, Jen? What do you think about segment battle points before we get into the fun
To
stuff?
weigh in for the podcast, I thought that was just for races.
for those that don't know, Jen does race at a very, very high level on Zwift. A part of the SARS No Pins crew has raced across Grand Prix, Zwift Premier Division, as well as ZRL. So, yeah. Um, what do you think about the current situation with segment battle points? No, you don't have to weigh in here. We don't check your weight. It's all good. You can dope all you want.
I don't understand it at all. It makes my head hurt. I'm just going to race hard and hope it all works, well, it comes out in the wash.
The doctor doesn't understand it. Oh man, whew. Now, now we've got the ultimate opinion. So last time we had you on, it was all about recovery. Now, what's been going on? We talked about recovery, zero off season. Any hot takes on that since that show? Like, has there been any response or anything that you want to bring back up since we last talked about that?
Particular, but I think it's going to it plays into what we're going to be talking about today, which is Red S, because recovery is kind of a part of that. It's all a spectrum. So, yeah, I think we can just jump into what we're going to talk about, and it'll come through there.
So I wanted to talk about Red S. I just call it Reds. And I know Chris from Zwift has done some great articles on it as well. And it's quite I don't want to say it's a hot topic. I feel like it's been a topic around for years and years. When I had it, it was called the female athlete triad, but I think it changed to Reds because male athletes have it too. Go figure. And I also had it wrong. I always used to think it was relative energy deficiency syndrome, but it's relative energy deficiency in sport. So there we go. That's what the S means. But Jen, do you want to give us like a rundown about what Reds is? And I guess why should we care?
So, relative energy deficiency in sport sometimes is also called low energy availability in other literature, but it kind of means the same thing. And it basically means that the energy your body has left over to do your normal bodily processes after the energy is expended in exercise is not enough. So, like a very simplistic equation would be food minus exercise, and it's negative. So think about your body. Your body's a machine, and it takes fuel to fuel all of your processes, not just your exercise. It takes fuel to fuel your hormonal function, your neurologic function, every process in your body. And if you use up all your fuel doing exercise and you don't take enough in, then your body is functioning at a deficit. And what happens when you end up in that state is your body's going to start either shutting down certain processes, such as a menstrual cycle, or it will start just kind of slowing other processes, like slowing certain hormonal functions, slowing your metabolism, even. And I like think about like your Garmin, right? You're out on a ride, like you're on your everesting ride, and you get the low battery, and you're like, no, it's gonna die. So what do? You turn off the screen. You turn off other non-essential functions, such as some sort of Strava link or something like that. You're tracking and to maintain what's essential, and the body does the same thing. And it's not just women. I mean, it's certainly more common in women, but it's definitely a problem for men as well. And I'm glad it's getting more news nowadays. It definitely does seem to be a bit of a hot topic.
I
i
wanted.
i found a cycling oh sorry
No, it's okay. Go ahead, and then I'll ask a question.
oh Okay. I found a cycling weekly survey that they did where they studied, I think, 800, 900 some riders and did surveys, and found that 1 in 5 were at risk of low energy availability, or red S, based on their responses about fueling and activity. 30% of women and 15% of men. But when you drilled down to like semi-professional level riders or higher, it was 40% across the
Whoa.
board.
Wow. That's a really almost half. We're talking about almost half of people who are at a very high level, elite level of competing. So we got a little bit of what it is. Before we run into, we're going to talk about symptoms. We're going to talk about how common, we a little bit there, more about how common it is in cycling. Again, is it just a women's thing and how it goes across? But I wanted to, like, before like alarm bells start going off, like people are like, oh no, I'm in red S. Like is red S something like a day-to-day thing? Is it something that's like over a longer, like what kind of time frames are we talking here to get into reds? Like am I in reds if I just have a low energy availability and like things start like is it this slow process of becoming more chronically bad? Like, you know what I mean? Like where it's like, well, yeah, you had a symptom because you had low energy availability and you just like passed out and went to sleep for a long period of time because your body said, okay, it's not essential to be awake right now and you didn't eat enough or whatever. You know what I mean? Is that kind, but then like, that's like as if I were to compare it to getting a cold that got progressively worse because I didn't take good care of myself with getting a cold. The symptoms at first were just a little bit of an itchy throat, but then like my immune system couldn't handle it because I didn't do certain things, or maybe it's just a really bad cold. And then I got something in my lungs and then I got shakes, you know what I mean? Like, and so is it kind of a progressive thing, or is there actually like a line you cross where you hit reds? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I think it's more of a progression, and you might be in low energy availability at any given part of the day for a little while. Like say you do your workout and you get busy and you don't fuel after your workout. You go pick up your kids from school, you go to work or something like that. Well, you're going to be in a state of low energy availability for a while until you go back to fueling. And that's going, but if you're doing that constantly over and over again, like every day, it just compounds and gets worse and worse and worse on the body. It's not like oh, over here you're okay and here you're not. It's more of a continuum.
And if we look at symptoms, what are some things that, I mean, I know for females, basically, as soon as you stop getting your period or your period kind of changes in any way, that's like a kind of an alarm bell. And I think that's why it was kind of more identified as a female issue earlier on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but what are the sort of symptoms people should look out for with this?
Yeah, the menstrual irregularities are an easy symptom, like it's obvious, but that's it's not an early symptom. That's a later symptom. So, and then men don't have that. And an important caveat is that if you're a woman and you're on hormonal birth control, you cannot use that as a symptom, because if you're taking the pill and you're having your withdrawal bleed, that's not a normal period, and you can't say, "Oh, I'm having my bleed. I'm fine." If you're on the pill, you can't use that, or any sort of hormonal contraception, implants, IUD with hormones, anything like that messes that up. So, as for symptoms, there are a lot. It starts with like the basics, right? Poor sleep is a big one. Um, Mood disturbances, being cranky, irritable, cold intolerance. Like you can't handle the cold. Your hands and your feet are always cold. Low libido. That's for men or for women, but even more so for men. The libido meaning like sexual drive. Sorry about using medical terms. Weight gain can even be a symptom of it, because your body is going into starvation mode and trying to retain fat, because you're not giving it enough calories.
Can I jump in right there? Like, where as a
Yeah.
coach, I think I've seen this, and I'm wondering if this is what I'm picking up on, where I've seen an athlete perhaps in this mode of starvation, trying to stay that way, and then they do rapid weight gain and rapid weight loss. Rapid weight, like suddenly if they start eating, like all of a sudden the body goes yes, and it becomes like a sponge and whole and it goes up real quick and it goes down real quick though. If they go back into, I'm wondering if people get into a cycle of that perhaps a little bit when they're around this reds or not. Am I a little bit off on that one?
Sure, that could also just be like glycogen and water in the muscles, for rapid weight gain. It's hard to gain weight like really rapidly, like actual weight gain, but fluid is usually what's responsible for rapid weight gain. And so if your muscles are all glycogen depleted and you finally return the substrate they need to get repleted again, they bring all the fluid with it. So I would definitely say that's probably some sort of warning system, but that's not something that I have read about.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Okay, understood totally. Other symptoms? Yeah, go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
Other symptoms would be frequent illness or injury. So like you're getting colds all the time, your immune system is down because of not fueling enough, or frequent injuries. You're always having niggles here and there, or you're getting a stress fracture. That's a big one. I mean, that's a late sign. That's a major red flag. But other things can be poor performance, or you're not adapting to your training. And so that's what we're commonly seeing. They're like, I'm doing all my intervals, but my top end is just not there, because the top end is really the first thing to go when you're in low energy availability. Like you might be able to ride, threshold or tempo just like you normally can, but when you can't hit those sprint numbers anymore, that's a sign to start looking out for things. I think those are, and the other one, a big one, is gut disturbances. So when you're in low energy availability, your gut gets more permeable, meaning that foods, there's a pretty tight barrier between your gut, the inside of your intestines, and then the rest of your body. And when that gets leaky, things start leaking into your system that aren't supposed to be there, and you'll get gut symptoms that you never used to have. Like all of a sudden you can't eat eggs anymore. This happened to me. I couldn't eat eggs. Every time I ate eggs, I would get all bloated. I would feel terrible. And I was like, what? I can't be allergic to eggs all of a sudden in my 40s. Well, that's why. And so food intolerances that you never had, that's a warning sign. Just like complaining of like bloated, gassy, just GI symptoms that are new is another thing to look out for.
So I guess, that's a huge list of symptoms, right?
It's a long list.
Yeah. I know for me, it was not having my period and my third femoral stress fracture in a row that kind of went, oh yeah, there's something going on. But like you were saying, those are really late symptoms. So if you can pick it up earlier, that's significantly better, obviously. Now, if you're looking at how do you actually stop this happening? I know at the start you had that really simple equation of, food minus exercise, and not being in the negative. Is it just as simple as eating more and exercising a bit less, or is there something a bit more complicated to that response? As complicated as segment battle points, Jen?
Thank goodness it's not as complicated as that. It's just eat more and eat for what you're training. So what commonly will happen is, you'll go out and do like a 20-hour big training block for a week, but you won't think to increase your food intake to match that. And so most of this low energy availability, I think most people it's unintentional. Obviously there's a component of people that have disordered eating behaviors or even full-on eating disorders, but I think more commonly it's unintentional, like not thinking, oh, I need to increase my fueling this week because I'm riding an extra 10 hours, or I'm busy and life is hard and I'm not timing my nutrition appropriately around my training. And that can be a big one. Like you might be getting enough calories, but you're not getting them at the right time. And so throughout the day, your body is continually in episodes of low energy availability. Whereas if you just maybe ate that meal right after you work out instead of 2 hours later, simple things like that.
I'm going to jump in real quickly. And since Gabriella did say something in chat, and I just asked her if it's okay if I share, she's riding next to me on Zwift. Anna's experienced this directly. Gabriella's experienced this directly. She actually just said in chat, "You're telling exactly all my systems working on recovery. It is serious." And the what you'd said, Jen, there about the reasons why it happened. Gabriella was new to cycling about 4 or 5 years ago, and her understanding of getting faster went with getting lighter. That like it was easier to get faster by getting lighter to a certain point, right? And so the lighter and lighter she got, the more it paid off to a certain point. And then, I mean, especially since this is a Zwift podcast, we see that number, watts per kilogram, non-stop, right? And so this idea of getting lighter is going to make you stronger, and you get a pretty good reward for that, especially in Zwift. But the reality is like how sick, as well as the negative consequences, and the reality of not like, here's a comparison. Went to Brazil. Gabriella's been working on this for like 3 to 6 months. I go and ride the same routes with her that she's ridden before, and she was like, "We're already here? I absolutely suffered to get here. What?" And then we get back, and she's like, "I have crowns that were mine. How did that even happen? I didn't even feel like we were working." And like, so this idea, this place that she had gotten into from her experience, from what I've understood, was, I'm just going to suffer as much as I possibly can because cycling is suffering, and so therefore the more I push through, all about performance, and get as light as I possibly can, because that's how I'm going to get the most results I possibly can. And now seeing that, like, no, strength is needed, muscle is needed, like some weight is actually really, really good and going to make you stronger. And now she's hitting the best sprint power numbers she's ever had, the ability to hang on with big watt monsters, like all these other sides of cycling she didn't see but it was because she was so new to cycling and no one had ever told her how to get. So there's a kind of a different, like you named two things there. One was just forgetting. Another was an eating disorder. But I think there's also this other ground of like not knowing how to get fast and just getting introduced to like, you just got to be lighter.
That's super common, especially in Zwift racing, and especially in women. And I don't think she'll mind if I share this, but after last year's UCI Worlds, Jackie Godby put together this incredible scatter graph about performance in Worlds with BMI, and she made a chart. And it showed that in the men, there actually was not a correlation between your BMI and your performance in Worlds, which ended with a big climb, if you'll remember. Now, of course, there's going to be outliers. There's points all over. But in general, the line was kind of like this. So for men, BMI did not correlate with race performance. But it wasn't the same for women. For women, it did. There was a trend where lower body mass index correlated with better performance. Now, of course, there's outliers all over the place, but in general, and so and I think that's probably because women are lighter and they have lower in general, and they have lower watts. So the weight is going to have a bigger effect. Feather affects, the old feather used to be, affect you a lot more when you were lighter. And that's going to work for short term, losing weight for a little while, but it's only going to work for a little while. And eventually you're going to end up with stress fractures. You're going to end up with, osteoporosis. You're going to end up sick, or you're going to fall away from the sport. And, we see women disappearing, like they used to race on Zwift. Like, what happened to them? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was something else, but that's only going to work for a short time. And in the long term, you need to focus on your health and focus on strength. And it is not all about, your low kilogram. I mean, look at Jackie. Like Jackie is probably the one of the people with the highest kilos, and she performs like a rock star. So she's a great example of it's not all about weighing 45 kilos to win Zwift races. And you have to think about your long-term health too. I mean, when you're in low energy availability, your body, one thing that's happening is your body is robbing your bones of things that it needs, and you're not having the right hormones to do bone metabolism correctly. So that's why you see a lot of cyclists ending up with osteoporosis. It's not just that you're not doing weight bearing exercise. It's this constant states of low energy availability, and I mean, I know a lot of women who are in their 40s with osteoporosis, and like you can't get that back very well. You when it's very, very hard when you lose bone mass to get it back, if not impossible. So you don't want to be that 80-year-old woman who trips and walking her dog and she's got a hip fracture, and you know you need to keep your bones healthy.
Yeah,
So
I think
go
oh,
ahead,
sorry,
Anna.
Nathan.
You're
Yeah,
good.
I've
Go
just
ahead.
seen a question come into the chat, which I wanted to cover as well and ask you, Jen. I mean, for me in my journey with this, I got it sorted because I wanted to have kids, and the fertility specialist was
Hmm.
like, "Well, you don't have a period, so you can't have kids right now." And I was like, sounds so stupid. I was like, "What? Oh no!" And then I kind of was, I
Oh man.
I was like, the only option for me, because I was like, I'm quite a control freak, because Nathan knows. I was like, well, what do I do? And she's like, gain 7 kg and stop exercising. Go to the gym, like don't do any cardio. Just do some weights, do light things, and gain 7 kg. So I did that, and that sorted me out, pretty quickly, luckily, within sort of 6 to 8 months. I mean, it's not incredibly quick, but it was quick enough. Now, the question has come in related to this. Like, if you are starting to have these symptoms, I mean, I don't think everyone would have to go to that extreme, right? So, do you just dial back your exercising? Like, if we relate this back to Zwift, do you just say to your team, like, hey, I think maybe I need a break from racing. I'm just going to do some low intensity things, add in some more gym work, some strengthening? Or is it no, exercise gone until this is sorted?
No, I don't think so, because it is a continuum. So it kind of depends on how bad somebody is. So if you're losing your period, if you are having stress fractures, you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis or something like that, you need to take this very seriously. You need to get the help of a professional, probably a sports nutritionist, and you probably do need to really dial back training and that type of thing. But for most people, you're just kind of starting to get the warning symptoms, which a lot of these warning symptoms are the same thing as being fatigued and tired, and because it all just comes down to training and recovery. And what is recovery? Recovery is eating and sleeping. Like recovery is not like your Normatec boots and every little fancy gadget that like they get you to buy, right? Like that's like the marginal gains. Like the foundation of all of that is eating and sleeping. And so if you're starting to see these signs, you don't need to freak out like, oh, I'm in red S and I'm going to die. Like it just means like, hey, I am not I'm there's somebody out there
Oh,
who's thinking that, you know?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
we're all like these type A personalities, right? We're so like high strung and control freaks, and but so what if you're starting to see stuff like this, it just means like you need more recovery you are not recovering or fueling enough for your training. And so I would say if it's all fairly mild, just try to eat more. Add 100 or couple 1 or 200 calories with every meal. Focus on making sure you're really fueling around your training, so that you're having fueling before your training. Forget that fasted training. That's stupid and it's really bad for you. Fuel before, during, and after your training. Eat more calories, and start there and just kind of see what happens. And it's normal that you're going to have some of these symptoms. Like, say you do a big training block, you have a big race. Like, yeah, I don't sleep well after a big race. I sleep terribly. Well, that's because I'm trying to recover. So just really focus on eating and sleeping and increasing it. And you may or may not have to dial back your training depending on how severe things are or how you respond. But I would say there's probably very few cyclists out there who are eating too much. I would say that like 99.9% of cyclists like could probably take a few hundred calories extra without a problem. And you would probably
You weren't
might
hanging out
notice
with me the
increased
last couple
performance
days,
from it.
Jen. You definitely weren't hanging out with me the last couple days. I'm like, want to just list like 2 chocolate cakes. I think we went through 3 bottles of wine, at least. Like, I don't know. I had a couple of Hefeweizens, a burger, fries. Guacamole and chips. Okay, I'm done. I can keep going on and on. We did the right thing after the Festive 500, 100%. Anyways, that's my encouragement, because it was like, oh, I felt like we were like doing this, like we got out like the ruler and we're just smacking people's hands in the classroom. Like, well, how do we make this better? Well, you just go enjoy food, lots and lots of food, like, and get sleep, which I absolutely love, sleep. I need the like 5 alarm bells. Anyways.
Oh, no. No, I think that was really good, Jen, because I think, like you said, people can freak out with it, but also is just keeping it very, very simple, right? And I feel like this is the same takeaway I had from you last time, which kind of shows how simple some of these things are, which is fuel the body right and focus on getting good sleep. And usually everything should take care of itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your body, think about like, if, your car's not going to run well if it has like, fumes in the gas tank. Well, you're not going to run well that way either.
Yeah, the thing that really stood out to me is how common it is, though, that like this is
Yeah.
really something to be watching out for, to be careful with. And I think, I wonder if this is, I don't know, that this is just a wondering, like, oh, am I picking up on something here, that the increase of data, perhaps also, I wonder over the last 20 years if this has been a problem that's risen with the increase of how much data we have to look at and how much comparison we have to look at. Our Strava, Instagram, and then those image issues mixed in with like lots of data to look at as cyclists, to be like, well, I can really measure a lot more of my performance against other people now, and then always trying to push that edge. I wonder if alongside that data, what we've done with it in some ways is trying to make these extreme comparisons to get as much as we possibly can out of the body, maybe in ways that aren't the absolute best for us. Anyways, just an idea.
Comparison is is always going to cause problems. Try to compare yourself to yourself, not to others. And most people who pay really close attention to their body will notice that, like, oh, when I'm at 50 kgs, I can hang out like that for a little while. I start getting cranky. I start getting, I don't sleep well. I yell at my husband. But when I'm up at like 53, 54, 55, like I'm everything goes smoothly.
Maybe
So
you'll
you can kind of notice that.
maybe you'll know when I'm weighing not enough by my Twitch streams. If I start yelling too much, yeah. If I start yelling too much, I think I'm heading in a bad direction.
I was saying this yesterday. I was like, it's time to make the decision about what we're training for. Do I start my big rides again? Do I put in my big hours? And I was like, I looked over at Gabrielle. I was like, babe, are you sure you want that person around? Wait, and now I'm like, wait, was I just not fueling enough? Maybe I can get away with this if I'm fueling enough.
And you can try that. Like I wanted to share like a study that was done in competitive swimmers. That was done in like teenage girls, like 15 to 17. And they trained for 3 months, and they compared girls who had normal periods to girls that did not. And they did a 400-meter time trial at the beginning of the study and at the end. And they found that they are all doing the same training. the ones who had normal periods increased their performance by 8% over the 3 months. The girls who did not decreased their performance by 10%.
There's almost a
Whoa.
20% difference between the
Over 3 months. 20% performance, basically. And so then they went back and looked
like
at.
you kind of get you don't just get capped, you actually go negative.
Oh yeah, you can certainly hurt your performance. And they went back and looked at like the girls and how many calories were they eating? And the girls that were increasing their performance were having about 2,500 calories a day. The girls that went down were having 1,800. And of course, this is just an average, and there's ranges, and I don't know how big they were or anything like that. But the point is, like 700 calories a day, equated to 20% in performance almost.
Wow.
So have that extra cookie or chips and or something. And don't be afraid of carbs. Like carbs are what fuel you, I think another way people can get into trouble is they're just obsessed with like eating like the most healthiest thing they can find, and they're just having like vegetables and then they're filling up on fiber and they're not getting enough calories. So
don't fill up on
way.
fiber. Don't fill up on fiber. Vegetables are not your carbohydrate source. They are not your carbohydrate source.
Well, I think that was very informative, Jen. There's a lot of chat coming in. I can see Jacqueline has said, thanks for covering the topic, especially at the start of a new year, as people can go out and hit it really hard and maybe just a little too hard. Quite a few people coming in actually and saying, thanks heaps for covering this topic. And also the specificness of Zwift to this topic is that a lot of people can be in isolation, and there's maybe people don't have that community around them to actually see them and go, hey, you're not looking so good, or this isn't great. So this is a way to kind of spread the message out to maybe the people who need someone in their life to say, hey, go eat a little bit more and go look after yourself. So
yeah, and talk to someone, right? Like say like if you think something's going on here, the best feedback is people who care about you. Like that's the best feedback. And go and talk to someone. Don't be ashamed of it. And like, hey, this is just being open and saying what you think might be going on is the best way. So 100%. I think that's awesome. Jen, thank you so much for coming on. We always absolutely appreciate having on. Are you racing some Grand Prix next week? Or are you racing ZRL or both?
I'll be there for ZRL for sure. Anna has thrown down the gauntlet, so I better be eating more carbs to get ready. And as for Grand Prix, I will be racing or DSing depending on how things shake out. I mean, we had, unfortunately, Morgan ended up hit by her car, and we've had some trouble with the roster because of that. But so I don't know, but we'll see. But Anna will be racing.
Heck yeah. Right. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jen, and we'll see you out on the Zwift Racing League. And next time we have you on, always great to have Dr. Jenn Reel. See you, Jen.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, always great. Super informative. Anna, do you got to go like right now, Anna? Or were we doing fashion show?
No, it's Christmas holidays, so I've got like 5 minutes.
All right. We got 5 minutes.
It's okay.
We can do the most important part. I mean, more important than eating food and staying fueled. I mean, come on.
Looking good in your kit and Zwift.
Yeah.
Right? That's
so
I was going to say though, before we go on to that, I have been through this as many people have, but if anyone is listening and doesn't have someone they want to reach out to, just honestly shoot me a PM or something. I can share my story or help you out or just chat. So just throwing that out there too.
Yeah, 100%. Always open. Make sure our socials are a great place to connect with us. So make sure to do so. And it's got obviously a lot of experience. I have a little bit as a coach watching people go through this, especially on the men's side of things. So, right. For our fashion show, what is going on here? Are you kidding me? Okay. All right. So our jersey pick of the week, last week you said, why do you want to level up on Zwift? Wait, for what? What are you leveling up for? And no, this is like, a catch a phrase here, but turncoat. Like, what the heck? Because we're looking at the level 56 jersey, it looks like. The leopard is our jersey pick, Anna. What's happening here?
Yeah, okay. So I picked it not because, and this is kind of, it's not a turncoat because it's kind of more emphasizing what I'm saying is this really what you want to unlock?
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So what happened is on the podcast ride we did last week, feels like a lifetime ago, I noticed a lot of people put on this jersey as their worst jersey in their garage. And so I was like, we've got to feature it then. So, and Christina Grossman was actually picked out as the worst kit on the podcast ride. So congrats to her. And she was rocking this leopard print jersey. So yeah, not a favorite in the community. I have not unlocked it yet. And I have to say, I probably wouldn't wear it, even if I had unlocked it. So yeah, it's a jersey pick just for the fact that I'm not going to call it the worst jersey. I'm still going Digi Camo and the Festive 500 Rafa 2022 kit, but it's not great.
Yeah,
and also,
if you're
sorry,
going
to go... Sorry, I have to shout out Holly Brown Williams. Sorry, Holly Brown Williams sent me the screenshot. So thanks to her.
And she's a very avid listener. She's awesome. Holly Brown Williams, big shout out to her. Always very helpful when it comes to the podcast. If they were gonna do this, it just should have went all the way down the legs too. Like, just go all in. Like, this is kind of almost weird that it's like just the top and then you just have these Zwift black. I don't know. Like, if you're gonna look like a tiger, look like a tiger. Like, come on, dude, go all in. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to agree though that it's not the worst jersey because there are situations for it. I feel like I don't know, like it's not just completely ugly. Like some, I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's a little glaring. Not maybe, it's a lot glaring. It's like, what is that? Okay, leopard print. Okay, buddy. Like, good luck with that. But at the same time, it isn't just like puke. Ugh. Seriously,
Yeah, I mean, pull it out at the Rap podcast ride where you're pulling out your worst kit. That's where you could wear it. I think as well, the reason it's...
Did you see Amy's comment, the whole cat suit, Nathan? Yeah. Give me the whole cat suit. Let's go. Tail and all. Let's go.
That would be cool. And then paired up with some little cat ears. Now that would be good.
There we go.
Would get top fashion.
See, just these little, it's the nuances. It's the little parts of this. Okay, now you got me way too much into what the heck? How did this happen, Anna?
I know, I've changed you. You're a changed man. Okay, hit me with the garage pick of the week.
Okay, garage pick of the week. This is a pretty good one. Now, Gabriella didn't like this at all, that they forced her into this. She took it off right away for some reason. But Happy New Year, the 2022-23 New Year hat. That's the garage pick of the week. Now, this isn't something that's in your garage unless it's New Year's Day, though.
Yes. So you've got to ride around New Year time. And I do want to shout out whoever this person is, Dommy.va. They probably don't even listen to the podcast, but this is from his Instagram. And the reason I chose this instead of kind of using my own was because it was a great fashion in the field just in general, like just the paired up shoes, the Tour of Watopia shoes, I think they are, with the blue socks that match up with the blue kid, and then the hat. It just all looked really nice. It stood out. So I like the hat. I mean, it's a New Year's Day thing. I don't think they should ever bring it into the garage to be able to wear. But it looks good. It's celebratory. I like it. It goes with the season.
Yeah, he's on a tri-bike, though. He's on a TT bike. I don't know, like riding around on TT bikes. Come on. Like, get a real bike. Get a real bike. Ooh.
Oh, no, I love it. Love the TTers out there.
It depends. Like, if I'm in performance mode and I'm going for a segment, all right, fine. Unless I've got a good lead out, I guess I'll jump on a TT bike. So, all right. Well, that's our fashion for the week. What's coming up next week, over the next week, Anna? Well, ZRL's coming. Anything else over the weekend, though?
Well, I did my everesting, which was like 14 and a half hours of, I think it was like 13 hours of ride time. And I'm thinking how I need to get fit for ZRL. I'm like, if we could just ride up the Temple QOM like 100 times, that'd be sweet. But I think my training is not being very specific. So I think I need to get on this weekend and maybe do a few intervals. It's crazy stormy here at the moment. Like the surf is up. I went out ocean swimming and mostly just body surfed for like an hour, which was super fun, but not great for kind of getting outside. So I will go on Zwift, I think. And we're going to go away next week to the beach, but all the roads have closed because the weather's been so wild. So,
Whoa.
yeah. Oh, I know. So I will be here probably, check out my Twitch. Probably my son will come join me. I might try and hit up some intervals. I mean, how long does it take to recover from an everesting? I guess I'll find out.
I want to say it's going to take you 2 weeks. Like, I mean, to be fully go, like full, you know, I don't think you're going to have like a lot of, it depends on what you do. Like, how long have you been resting? Have you been pushing it too much? Week and a half. I think you'll be ready to go.
So,
throw some intervals in there, short and sweet though, nothing long. I think you'll be good to go. That's Coach Nathan. But I mean, you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll take that. What are you up to?
The tiny races look really interesting this weekend because they are all 2 to 3 minute climbs at the end, every single one of them. So that's really interesting. Yeah. So
is that a short interval? I could go do that.
Yeah, those are short intervals.
Okay.
There you go. Those would be really good. And then I heard that Next Esports are launching their own series on Sunday mornings. The Next Cup with 3 races in a row. Boom, 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 back to back. So but these are probably going to be, they're not going to be like the tiny races. They're going to be a little bit longer for an hour and a half of total racing, it sounds like. Sounds really interesting, actually. I might take a look at racing some of that. Besides that, I'm in base mode. I'm putting in somewhere between 12 to 18 hours without getting tired, actually. I'm slowly ramping it up. I said yesterday, like, wow, that was a 15-hour week. Almost 18 with weights. So I guess we're going pretty good right now, and I don't feel tired or cranky or anything. Like, I guess, so it might be time to slowly ramp that up a little bit more and start throwing in some force work at some point. I'm starting to think about, like, how am I going to pair the weights with the bike? That's kind of where I'm at right now, and that's usually when you start introducing force work, so you're getting into the Nathan training ed. So I don't know. I'm picking my next week more off of principle and where I'm at in training rather than aiming at specific events. Besides, tiny races are always in the back of my head. This Next Cup looks really cool, and then it's a lot of prep for ZRL. Watch out, Anna. We're hyping up that Americas. We're hyping up Americas. No, we're gonna broadcast it. We're gonna broadcast.
What should we call it? America's East.
America's East, believe that something. I don't know. Well, we'll figure. Wait a second. We got to get your buddy on. We got to get, what's his name?
I know. Billy.
We got to get Billy on, and Billy can hype it up. Believe the hype. Anyways, so we're going to broadcast America's East, specifically focused on the women's battles. So watch out for some emails or some contacts to try and get all of you jumping in on broadcast as well, because we're pretty excited to watch whether or not you can deliver, Anna, up against 2024. And I hear there's a couple other teams, Upscale Finesse and a few others who might be trying. I mean, we're in full Zwift season right now, so.
Oh, now watch out. We've got some new recruits. So,
okay.
This team's all in. We're looking good.
There's one last thing and I want to get from you, and I'm going to give this over to GP Llama. You know, every year at this time on the old Zwift, on the Zwiftcast, we're not the Zwiftcast. We're not a remake of the Zwiftcast, but we would always do Peak Zwift. And I'm throwing this at you at the last moment. I know. But I have to still send my video in over to Shane. He's gonna, and put something together for Peak Zwift, because I think we're gonna do something with Peak Zwift. I don't know where it's all gonna throw down or anything, but I want to know. I'm not gonna give my prediction maybe I'll give my prediction here too, and then we can just use this clip. So Anna, in 2022, it was 42,199. 2021, 49,114. April of 2020, which was peak lockdown, 34,954. And then from there, it's 19,000, 13,000, 8,500. So we've had this like 34, 49, 42. Where are we going to end up in 2023 for peak Zwift? Do you want to give us a number?
Okay, I'll go 44,635.
44,635. 44,635. I'm going to go with 36,132. 36,132. We'll see where it ends up. Eric Schlange and GP Llama. And I think we may have something from Simon coming in as well. So,
Oh, yay!
Yep. We'll have to clip that out. Hope the Llama doesn't get mad at me with the reveal right now. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, no. We've said too much. Close it down.
Too much. Close it down. Close it down. Thanks everybody for tuning in. That's it for the wrap. If you want to listen to this in audio format for a podcast, it is available anywhere that you listen to your podcast. Just search the wrap and Zwift. It should show up with myself and Anna as the hosts. We have been live on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Hit those follow buttons, comment, like, do all those fun things, and follow up with us over on our socials. Instagram is one of the main places that we do that. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for episode 26. And as always, from Anna and myself, ride on.